next episode of The Lair. Today, with my guest, we're going to be talking a lot more in depth about goals, why it's important, can you really even achieve them, but then how you can kind of keep yourself in check. And at least one way, if not more, is that how you can use your peer group and your maybe employees or friends to help you also keep track on your goals. So joining me again, my guest, Mike Hylton. Mike, welcome back to The Lair. Thanks again for joining.
Dan, it was such an amazing experience last time to be in The Lair, and really just grateful to be back here in The Lair talking with you again.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that I miss when we were both in the DC area, we worked together, or we were able to collaborate, was just, you know, all the times that we would talk and we mutually shared our career aspirations and goals. And in many ways, you know, we kept each other kind of, you know, accountable to the goals that we were setting out. You know, whether or not was, you know, you wanting to become a CEO, and then when you're looking to do your MBA and vice versa. I mean, I think those things are extremely important. And one of the reasons why, you know, I'm doing the show, because, you know, as you heard, I'm always asking what's next. And the reason is now it's recorded and you have to keep it up. Otherwise, the next time you come on, you might be getting called out. So, you know, Mike, share with us, you know, the ways in which you create your goals. How do you make them actionable? And, you know, of course, we talk about, can you really ever achieve it?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, a wonderful point. And it's one of these things that where you and I were talking last time on the podcast, we were talking about the MBA and how that was such a significant accomplishment. And one of the things that we really started talking about that got me thinking was, can you really ever truly accomplish your goals? And I went back on that and I started thinking, well, the MBA for me is not the end result, it's the beginning. And a lot of times what's happening is that you may have goals, and there's this famous saying that everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face, right? And that's with Mike Tyson. And yeah, you could always have your goals. You should definitely have the SMART goals and have them basically so that they're specific, measurable, actionable, and all that. But things like the pandemic, things that are major, you know, obstacles arrive in our lives, no matter who we are, whether it's in your career, your personal life. And to me, I think there's a lesson learned in every challenge. And the reason why I say that is that you could always face something that's significant in your life and say, well, this isn't fair, or what can we do? But I think there's always a perspective, and that perspective is what leads me to your question, is how do I set my goals? And I always say, how do I want to look back on this moment 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now? What did I accomplish? What did I take from it? And one of the reasons why we even start talking about goals is I think that the invaluable lessons in life is not only when we are successful, but when we fail. And those lessons that you could take back and do your after action review, you know, it's a military term of what happened here. When you take that and you're brutally honest with yourself and say, how can I improve and move forward and try this again? Those are so important to me. So there's two types of goals, I think. There's the ones that you set out to do, and there's the ones that you end up sort of facing the challenges and overcoming those. And I want to talk to you about some of those that I sort of come across in my career.
Absolutely. So you hit on something, and I'm just curious as to what your thought is, and I'll give you mine first, because one of the things I always say is, hey, tell me what you think about this, and they don't want to tell you yours. But you mentioned, you know, failed goals. To me, a goal only can be failed is if you give up. I may not achieve it, but if I'm continuing to get knocked down and I'm still working towards it, did I really fail? I don't think so. I think it's still your goal, and you just, you know, it's that power of yet. I haven't achieved it yet. I'm going to. I'm okay if I get stepped back. As a matter of fact, I want some setbacks because I want to struggle. That struggle, it's the whole aspect from like the Game of Thrones, iron, steel makes steel or something along those lines. I can't remember what it was with the Ironborn, but basically it was, iron makes iron stronger. You want to keep going at it, and that struggle in wrestling with the idea comes out and makes it better. If it was easy, what did you really learn? I don't think you did. I want to learn, and I don't like saying fail fast. I like saying learn fast. But I only think you fail is if you give up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we asked about sort of where do you kind of come up with the goals? How do you set them? Well, I think the very first thing is to know what your vision is. And you and I both share that same vision is we want to become CEOs. And everything that we sort of do along that path contributes in some way to becoming a CEO. So whether it's sales for now to become someone who can manage a quota quarterly on a business level on the top line versus also selling your idea, this is along the trajectory, and it all basically creates that motivation to go towards it. And if I mess up on a couple of deals here and there, what I've done is I've learned quickly, and sales is one of the fastest ways to get that immediate feedback on, is my approach, the new one I'm trying, A/B testing, working or not? And there's no sure way to get that feedback than being in sales, which is what I like right now in my life, or for what I've been doing in my career recently. So can you really ever fail? The only time you ever fail a goal is when you do throw in that towel. And it really is, I think, one of the key purposes of life is to find the right challenges for yourself and to keep at it until you solve it.
Yeah, I think you really, the idea of the goal is it should be attainable, but not easily attainable. It needs to put you through some type of struggle, because the idea is to come out better than what you were. And I think a lot of people don't do a continuous monitoring of their goal. They don't have those either self check-ins with whoever's helping them to maintain accountable. I mean, to me, the first is the one you look into the mirror. I know if I did it well or not. There's no cheating yourself. And
Yeah.
I continuously check in with my goals to look at my progress, because that progress for me provides motivation, and the motivation, success is a habit, just like failure is a habit. Success breeds success. In the movie, I think it was Bull Durham, when you're like, okay, one win is great, 2 wins is this, but 3 wins is a streak, right? And you want that streak of winning and to keep on going. And so when you check in on the momentum of your goal, that can provide additional motivation to keep pushing forward when you're going to do it. When, I don't know if you caught the episode with Alicia, and one of the great things about all the guests that I've had on, each of you all have something very in common. And I think we all have this in common, which is we bet on ourselves. We also, Alicia struggled through the MBA program. She mentioned she almost gave up, but she didn't. And she maintained her goal. She got motivation from her mom. Shane, who was just on the show, he got motivation to go back to his degree from his daughter. Find that motivation and keep it going.
Yeah, Dan, you really hit the nail on the head for me on a couple of things there that I really want to kind of dig into a little bit here with you. One is continuous sort of motivation, and small successes breed larger and larger successes, and it's like a snowball. You have to find your inner leader voice, find that spark and expand on it. But also motivation, this is a tricky one for, I think, for me and for a lot of people, because someone can motivate you, but you need to be self-driven, and they're very, different things. I want to kind of explain a story about this, that it's an analogy that I always look back on when I find challenging things in my career, because I do believe when you are facing something challenging, that is a way to train and become better when it comes to your career, whether it's physical training, whether it's anything in career or in the MBA, which sets you up for success. One of these things was around my 30th birthday, I went to Peru to hike the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. So this is one of the most strenuous hikes that you can do in the world. I trained for it for about a year, and you can do a lot of training. So think about like your MBA and kind of going into your career and really kind of doubling down on something that's strenuous. And then you have essentially like a guide. You know, this could be like your mentor, your manager, and what they can do is essentially say, look, this is going to be challenging, Dan or Mike, and this is sort of what you can expect along the way, but I've done it before, and I'm pretty sure you can do it. And at the end of the day, it was a, a hike with about 10 people, and we had our guide. It was about 4 or 5 days, and it's an interesting hike because in the middle is the summit. This is where it's called Dead Woman's Passing, and this is about, I want to say 15,000 feet above sea level, so it's very difficult to breathe. And what I didn't expect, like I said, you know, we all have our goals. We want to finish this together and kind of get to the beautiful, amazing Machu Picchu. There was a day where we all essentially sort of spread out and lost contact with each other. I didn't see the guide. I didn't see any of the people in my group. It was 8 hours of hiking on this mountaintop that you could just see everything. And for 8 hours, I was by myself thinking, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it to Machu Picchu? Am I going to make it alive? Am I going to die here? It's very difficult to breathe. I actually got altitude poisoning, and I was very sick. And all I could think about was, I can do this one step at a time, and think about the words of my guide saying, this is going to be challenging, but it's so worth the effort. And in the day, I couldn't rely on him in that moment of saying, can I do this? Is this what should be happening? Or I couldn't turn to my friends in this hike. And I had to basically dig deep to say, look, this is on me. The only person who can make me go to this next level is me. And it was 8 hours of one step at a time, deep, heavy breathing, very high fever, a little bit dizzy. I didn't, some people are impacted differently from the altitude. I was definitely one of them. And I finally made it to camp. They asked me how things were. I sat down on a chair. I fell right over. But the next day, it became easier because I was used to sort of the altitude, and easier and easier. And then I was so happy together. We all made it to Machu Picchu to see this beautiful site together as a team. And while it is a team, we each have to do our own part to accomplish things. And I look back on that as a significant milestone in my life when it comes to uncertainty and being comfortable with that uncertainty, but also having relied upon my guide who said, I've done it before, not easy. You can do it. You can expect some of this, but you won't really know what to expect until you feel it for yourself. And I think that is so helpful when it comes to anything, when it comes to our career or MBA or any challenges like we face today with the pandemic.
I tend to agree with this, and it really resonates because when people tend to get overwhelmed is because they take a look at, say, the whole elephant and like, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat this thing? Well, it's only one bite at a time. All right? It's not done in one sitting. You know, you may have a setback, but after every step, again, that you've took, you accomplished the motivation you made there. And I think people don't stress to figure out where their breaking point is on a routine basis, because as muscle memory kicks in, whether or not you take the athletic mentality of, okay, I ran the quarter mile in X amount of time. Well, I can beat that because you've done it before. All right, I ran, whatever. Like I ran the 40-yard dash in 4.5. Well, I need to get to 4.49. Well, I know I can do it in 4.5. So what am I going to take in order to get to 4.49? I bench pressed 200 pounds yesterday. I'm trying to go to 210. You know, I know that I could do 200 because I've already done it. I'm just adding a little bit. That constant incremental change, as you'd mentioned, small wins equal a big win later. And I think that's important. Those are the things that motivate. I know if I have to stay up for 50 straight hours, I can do it. It sucks, but I've had to do it multiple times when I was at XM Radio and standing up stuff with Homeland Security and even some things that we had happen at First Source Bank. Stuff went down and I had to do it. And I've done it before, so I know how to do it. And it doesn't bother me. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable because of my past success. I know what it takes to get to the next step. And I'm not scared of failure. I think I said that. I think a lot of people are afraid to fail. I'm not afraid because I'm not going to give up. I will persevere. Right. I don't have to have all the answers. I've got good friends and colleagues I can call. Like even at that malware event that we had, I'm like, hey, who do I know in the malware space? Called Mike. Hey, look, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I need to do. I don't have the answers, but I know people who do. And I think that's kind of a way to keep that motivation. And I think, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with Michael Jordan because of his documentary stuff that's coming out. And he always looked for a way to be motivated. I don't need that. I don't need to find an external means to motivate me, because what motivates me is one, I have imposter syndrome. So I know no matter what, I believe I'm the underdog. I always believe I'm the underdog. And because of that mentality, I don't ever take a play off. I give 100% of the time. And I know that because of that, people who are better than me, I can win because they know they're better and they take that play off. And that's when I got you.
Absolutely. And, you know, you really, really said something that stuck out with me, which is you look at the sort of the play by play or the incremental milestones to your goal, not all at once. And when I first got to Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail, the very head of it, you're at the front and you could see the entire mountain. And the very first thing I said to myself, there must be a mistake, you know, kind of like that imposter syndrome. There must be some mistake here. There's no way I could do this. And, you know, you just say it's one step at a time, one day at a time, and just with coordination and planning. And, you know, if worse gets to worse, you know, then you can, you know, reach out to, you know, mentors or friends. And, you know, if I had just laid down on that trail and maybe just passed out for 6 hours, I'm sure eventually someone would find me and I'd be all right. But, you know, you could always rely on
or a leopard would have found you.
Yeah, or maybe would have gotten a ride with a goat or something. Yeah, or a donkey. So it's one of those things that you do always have in the back of your mind when you are working with people and you have the right support system and network in place, and that's critical. Which sort of reminds me of you know, working in Dubai and things like that. So it is interesting about the goals, and that's the one key takeaway that I want to apply to, you know, my experiences. Step by step. Don't look at one picture all at once.
Well, and I think you need to keep in mind what the bigger picture is.
Right, the vision.
So you don't take your eye off the prize. But you need that momentum. That momentum, I think, is the biggest key to success. And just, of course, you know, not giving up. You know, one of the things I also found that helps me with my goals is also keeping, you know, a gratitude journal in a way. You know, this is the, you know, because even though I may have set the goal, I still didn't achieve it all by myself. Because I mean, unless I'm saying, all right, I'm going to read 50 books. All right, okay, yeah, that's a goal. It's going to help me with some things. But, you know, I didn't achieve my MBA by myself. I couldn't have. I needed professors to be able to answer questions, you know, family to be able to, you know, support me, friends when things started going a little awry. I mean, there was that aspect of support. I still had to do it. but I didn't get there alone. But even at work, I tend to make sure, and I call out those people that uh, really positively influenced the direction, you know, and I keep that gratitude journal. So I'm like, hey, I'm really thankful for so and so of doing blah 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 because it resulted in this. And so I don't forget those that essentially helped me to meet my goal. Because in a real goal, at least as a leader, you've got to be able to get people to align with your vision. And if that alignment doesn't happen and you're not checking in with them to make sure they're still aligned, and it's like those little micro goals to get along the way. I got to check in with myself, and I've got to check in with the team to make sure that vision is still all aligned. Because one chink in that armor, and all of a sudden it goes from basically, to me, driving a Mercedes versus driving, a Ford pickup truck, because, you just literally went completely off the rails. That 2 degrees of being incorrect is a difference between me taking off from New York and either being in Singapore or maybe Australia. And that could be success or failure. 2% is a monumental change. So I'm always looking for that 2%.
That's absolutely right. The difference is in the details, and the difference between like a Golden Glove baseball player and a standard baseball player is just a few percentage points, and it really does come down to the little differences. And as you mentioned, I really do think goals and leadership are tied together, because goals are accomplishing things that haven't been done before, and that's leadership. Whether it's self-leadership or if you're doing it in a group of people, it's your traditional leadership. And what I find is that personally, I think there's an inner voice of leadership, and then there's sort of the other voice that's on the other side of the shoulder. It says, I want to do status quo. And I think that's human nature. And it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of uncertainty, for example, and you have to find that spark that says, this is what I think we should be doing, and believe in it. And the more you listen to it and the more you execute on it, and the more success and building off that success, the better you are at finding that leadership voice and executing. And I found this early on with a couple of things. One is, for example, right after at 9/11, while I was at the Pentagon, that was something where the very next day, a lot of us were asked to go back there. And while I didn't, I wanted to, I sort of listened to the larger team. I'm like, oh, well, we're going to stay back and see how this plays out. Some people did go in there and they really helped secure the servers and the systems from the flooding and the fires that were happening from putting out the fires. And there was a voice that said, I should go do that, but 20 years old. So I kind of look back at that as one of those after action things where I should have listened to my voice at that time. But the very next day after that, I did go back there and I listened to that voice, and there was hardly any communications at that point. We didn't have any mobile devices. BlackBerry was a very small pilot. I think we had like 9 of those at the time, which I was part of. And I was given the position to essentially deploy those out as quickly and as securely as possible. My background is security. That's how I got into wireless and mobile. And I deployed over 900 BlackBerries within about 9 months, which was just unprecedented at that time. And I never doubted my voice of, this is what we should do. This is the vision. And I got others on board with that. I had 5 or 6 people that reported to me when I was 20. A lot of these people were in their 30s. And I just took the ownership. It's ownership from A to Z. Like, this is what we need to do, and this is why. So everyone was on the same page on why this is important. Tactically, this is how we do it, and here's the plan. And it was amazing, because at that point on, like I said, never doubted, what is that voice? What should we do? And a couple of years after that, I went and responded to Katrina with communications. There was no communications after Katrina, after the hurricane. And I went down there, and I expected that there's going to be someone who would know what we should do. No one did. So I essentially said, like, we need communications. I know how to do it. And I had a team of people. And the funny thing is, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Rita showed up, another hurricane. So there was no power, hardly any running water, no stores. It was miserable. It was a lot of bugs, sleeping outside. And then Rita came, and we had to give up the cots we were sleeping on. But I still was empowered and gave the vision. We need to put, mobile access points and Wi-Fi within the hospitals. The windows were blown out. We needed to get something done. I asked people what they thought. No one had any ideas. And, I look back on that as, you have to listen to your voice, even when there's a lot of uncertainty, to stand up and take leadership. And when you do, you'll find that a lot of people will go with you on those things.
Yes, the mere appearance of having a plan gets people motivated to follow you. When you keep moving forward, people that don't have a plan will step aside. And this is a big part, I think, about leadership. I know at some point in time, I because it's happened in my past so many times, that once I get moving, I'm going to be able to see the flow of what's going on, and I'll be able to course correct very quickly, because I'm going to get that data point. I'm going to get that aha moment, and I'm going to go, this is the direction that we need to go. But you don't get that by staying still. If you stay still and let things happen to you, you're always reacting. I don't want to be in reactive mode. I want to be in the mode of moving forward, because as I'm moving, I can then eventually predict what's going to happen. Think about it when you're driving along the highway. If you're driving and you're constantly seeing exits, and it goes 30A, 30B, 31A, 31B, eventually there might be a 36B, because you've just seen enough of them. But if you just stand still and you're never moving, I have no idea. I have nothing to go on. And I also could know that if I'm seeing that direction, and I can go, oh, wait a minute, I just saw 30AB, 31AB. I'm going the wrong direction. I need 27. So I probably should take this exit, course correct, and go back. But again, I wouldn't know unless I'm moving. So
Right.
I constantly want to be in that state of moving forward, even if that moving forward may look like this, going all around, but eventually I'll figure out that straight line based on the data I'm receiving. And that's always helped me. Whereas other people are like, no, I need to wait. No, I need to wait. No, I need to wait. But what are you waiting for? They haven't defined that either. Because the saying that you're going to wait is, if you've defined what you're waiting for, then that's not the same thing as just sitting around waiting. You haven't defined it. Define what's important, and then remove the noise.
You're absolutely right. And it's one of these things I hear a lot about from people, even in my career. It's like, well, I'm comfortable in my position, and what if I did change? I could be, fired. For example, some people who are maybe looking to move up into enterprise sales, maybe they're an SC. And what I explain to them is, well, what if you are fired? You would walk away with a lot more skills than you first started. You would be building your skills daily and getting better and better and better. And you're here not only to help the company or close deals, but you are here, like what I imagine is, you're here to build and go to your next goal and milestone. You have to identify what those are, and that will help motivate you, but also protect you. So you have to keep on moving. You can never be comfortable. And it's one of these things that if your goals are aligned with your vision, you're going to be motivated. And, you know, there are questions I want to ask you as well about your career and your goals. For example, I saw some of the videos or some of the titles of your videos about starting off at like the service desk and help desk, which I think is the best way to start. Same way I started about 25 years ago. Completely, I think, different then than is now, because you had sort of taste of everything and saw everything. But what are some of the biggest leaps in terms of in your career? You went from maybe like service desk, and then you went to maybe, you know, somewhere else, SRA. But, you know, you're CTO, CIO, you're a CISO before. What was it like to take those leaps to maybe someone who is, you know, maybe they've went into like this path, like you're saying, of going like this, got into sales, grabbed everything they could, they learned what they could, and now they want to expand. You know, what is like the reasonable leap? What should you expect? How can you take it? That type of thing.
So, you know, the first thing is, you know, and this is what I tell a lot of my younger employees. Experience is the most important commodity that you can achieve. It's not the money, it's not the compensation that you're being paid. Well, and while that's important, you want to take things, because when you reach a certain point, the money's going to be there. What you wanted to figure out is how can you get to that point faster? You can get to that point by taking on roles that provide you experience, even if that it doesn't pay as much as what you might like. Every position that I have taken along the way, I've always had multiple job offers. I've never once taken the job that offered me the most compensation. I always took the one that I felt put me in a better position for the next role that I need to get. And when I started off at Tech Systems, it was on a help desk, but it was in the middle of this whole .com boom that was occurring. And I knew I wasn't going to be there very long, but I didn't know how long that was yet. I was just starting off in my career as a technology professional at the time. So there was an opportunity for me to move into the networking team there. All I needed to do was achieve my CCNA. So I did. I didn't move, but then the amount of money they wanted to offer me was the same amount of money I was making on the help desk. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just paid an awful lot of money, because I went through a Cisco CCNP boot camp, which was roughly about 10 weeks worth of training, and we did it at night. It was done from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. it was like 6 or 7 weeks. I don't remember exactly what it was. I mean, it was like 1998, 1999. So I got it. They wanted to offer basically the same amount of money. Like, oh, it's a lateral move. I'm like, I don't know. So I just decided to take a look on Monster, and there was a company out there that was looking for a network engineer. So I applied, and they called. And I made a little bit more money than what I was making as a help desk person. But in this case, I saw, wait a minute, I'm not just going to be someone to like maintain the network. They were looking for someone that needed to build the network, because they were on essentially a 56K dial-up network. It was they were changing this out because they were migrating to SAP as an ERP system, and this was in 1999, 2000 actually, because the whole Y2K stuff, because I remember that nothing happened. But we were upgrading everything from a 56K dial-up to T1s. All right, and that was huge back in. You know, so for those who don't know, a T1's 1.5 megabits per second, right? So a lot faster than the 56K dial-up.
Yeah.
So I was getting to do that. It was going to be frame relay, you know, all the stuff that I just basically learned, and I get to design it myself. I have to put in firewalls. I'm like, okay. So I went from making 42K to 46,000. So it wasn't a huge jump, but I'm going, wait a minute, this is amazing. Now, because of that work, that spiraled in to where the PIX 501 came out. And because of the stuff that I was doing this was American Wood Molding, I applied to be on their beta testing team, and I got selected, got the 501. And because of the stuff I was finding there, the rep was also the rep at XM Radio, had, recommended me over there. And I got an interview and I got the job there. So I started making a little bit more money, but it was even more advanced. So I basically just took exactly what I just did at American Wood Molding, and I got it to be a bigger. Wasn't that much more money. Eventually got to be there. But I took on that challenge of, okay, I just did this. All right, I'm a little nervous, but I've looked at it, I've always been nervous with everything. And that's always been a part of what drives me, that imposter syndrome aspect. Am I good enough? Am I really good enough to be here? Am I really good enough? But what I know is that there's gonna be a lot of people that are better than me, but they're not gonna out hustle me. They're not gonna outwork me. So I got the XM Radio. Then 9/11 happened. And I'm in the middle of DC. 9/11 happens. And through Cisco and Unisys, I got a job interview over there to wind up becoming the director of network security on that ITMS program, which was, it may even still be the largest managed service contract in the federal government. I don't know. I mean, it was huge. I mean, it was for all of Homeland Security. And that was, I mean, that, you talk about doing something you'd never done before. Now, all of a sudden it's, yeah, I did security. You could say back in the day, okay, yeah, I was, a hacker. I was probably more of a hack than a hacker, I would say, it was, but definitely on that defensive side. Now I gotta design the entire network security for all of Homeland, right? This is like, I've never done this. Everything was always, I'd never done this before. I'd never done this before. And I just kept doing it. I just didn't say no. Like the opportunity came. I'm hungry. I'm still hungry. Like I thirst for that. I need those challenges. That's still that competitor in me. Losing is just not an option. Just, it's not going to happen. I'll find something that keeps that going. But those are the things. I just didn't say no to an opportunity. Was there a lot of risk? Absolutely. There was a huge amount. If someone had said to me, and it wasn't me, and I just saw this on paper, and they said, "Hey Dan, I just got out of school. I've got a wife, kid on the way. Should I take this risk to go to XM Radio?" And they didn't even, I mean, a startup satellite radio company. I'd be like, what are you thinking? Why would you do that? That is a huge amount of risk. You've got to, I'm like, except I went and did it, right? So like all this stuff, because I needed that risk. I had to bet on it because I felt this almost supernatural urge, like something was there, like that, all right, I've got to push towards this. And so I did. And I did it, even becoming the CISO at Fixmo. I had to convince a lot of people that I was the right person. I mean, the highest level I had been at other things, again, was a huge amount at Unisys at that time. But then then I was at SRA, and then I had a lot of government experience along the way. But now you're talking about the person in charge of security. Not only that, the person in charge for security, with your customer zero being the White House. It was, now it's it's game time. Like it is, like it's you're talking about you're no longer in the minor leagues, you're playing in the show, like you were there. And I had to step up then too, and then taking it to Silent Circle. Probably if I had to say, like the career defining moment when all eyes were on me was when that black phone was compromised at DEF CON, and I was there, and I had to be in front of all of the media answering these things, because one, I already knew about the exploit because we found it several days beforehand. We had it fixed, but no one's going to put this over the air update at DEF CON where we're selling these things, And so, but that to me was, I would, you know, even though I've had a lot of like defining moments, those were all technical. Like those are easily solvable, but it's really difficult to solve a people issue and perception in the industry with real data and facts. So that to me was, I would say, if I had to put a flag point as to what really launched how to be able to handle everything, because that's how you would handle board members. That's how you handle upset customers. That's how you handle, you know, social media things that are occurring. So, I mean, that was a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of things. But to me, that was the pivotal part is the how to transition from the technology to addressing real problems in the world at the time.
You know, I agree, and I resonate with a lot of that because when I first started, it was an internship, and my whole point of being there was to learn. And there's this sort of point of diminishing returns when you're in a job role. It's like, I've learned everything I can learn out of this, and now it's time to take it to the next level. And what you're saying, when I'm hearing you speak, I'm hearing you saying, well, there's this imposter syndrome, so why not just keep on moving forward and taking the next bigger leap? Because it's going to be there. I mean, might as well just keep growing and expanding and learning what you can as much as you can in any job role that you have. And it's fascinating to me to hear about how you went from, you know, to Fixmo as the CISO there. Because in the day, it's one of these things that you can't expect perfection. So if there is going to be like that issue at DEF CON with the black phone, you know what? It's the show goes on, and you have to do what you can, the best that you can, and nothing is going to be perfect. And I always kind of wonder about, am I, you know, in the right position? Should I go for the next one? And when I've always said that, like you know, it's like sort of that imposter syndrome. So one thing that solves that question for me a lot of times, if not me, who else? You know, who has the background that I have, the tenacity and the education, that perfect mix to do X, Y, Z. And that's something that it's time for me to revisit as well when I'm looking at my trajectory and where I've learned and things like that. And it's amazing to hear your examples of XM radio and betting on yourself where it was a startup and not necessarily taking more money. It's not about more money. I get nonstop recruiters every day. In fact, they were just calling me while we were doing this, saying, "What, we can give you more money." And thinking to me is like, why would I want to do the same thing for just a little bit more money? I want to expand what I'm doing and try to better myself here to get into the next level where I'm at before I go anywhere else. And that is what I believe I can do. And it's interesting to me, and I think you may run into this as well, that some of the people that you work with, or maybe past firms where you work with them and you have a high regard for them, when you really start to understand them, they don't really know much more than you do or have much more experience with the problems that we're facing together on the team. And sometimes you're just as good at solving those problems, if not better. And it's just about taking that risk and betting on yourself again on that theme. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I'm always betting on myself. If I'm not going to, who is?
Yeah.
And I'm constantly in for, you know, when you mention this, you know, there's no aspect for perfection. You know, I love Lexus's tagline, which was in the pursuit of excellence. You can never truly achieve excellence, but if you're not in pursuit of it, you never will. And I'm always in pursuit of what is the best version of me, and I don't think I've achieved it. And I'm going to keep going. I did the MBA for that reason. I read. I'm doing the show, you know, for that reason, because I want to keep learning from my friends and colleagues that I've met along the way. And you know, that's going to be the continuous goal, the goal of, you know, consistently and constantly learning and expanding my own thoughts that are out there. I mean, I see it even with everything going on in COVID-19. I mean, my thoughts on this virus have changed a dozen times along the way based on the data that I've seen and what I've been reading. And I've got a much different opinion now than when it first came out. I'll be honest, when it first came out, I was like, it's just a flu. Who cares? Now I'm like, well, yeah, it's kind of the flu. But it's a little bit, you know, more dangerous, but it's a risk equation. All right. If I'm going to go be around a bunch of people, then I'm probably not going to go hang out with my dad, who is in a high risk environment. So I'm probably not going to go do that. But it doesn't mean I should not go out in public, because the probability of me becoming to a point to where I could die from it is still very, very, very small. So I could live in fear, or you know, I can go out and you know, people that are like, oh well, this could happen, this could happen. Well, you know, I feel like I'm in really good shape. I mean, I'm not in the best shape that I could be, but I eat well. I take care of myself. I have always done things to better my immune system. So everything I'm reading from all these other medical experts, if you do that, then you're not in the category of being in this high risk. Everything's about that. And it's about taking in the data and making the best decision you can make at the time. But if you find that it was the wrong decision, don't double down on a wrong decision. Pivot. And that's why I say learn fast. Okay, I learned this wasn't good, so I'm now going to move. It's okay to say, that was the wrong decision, and that's fine. Move on. I love the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling. In there, I've been reading this thing for years, and I read it constantly. I first read it when I was in high school, but in there, and you know, I should probably have this thing memorized at this point, but I don't. But essentially, he says, treat success and disaster as the same imposter. Once it's happened, it doesn't matter if you were successful or you failed. Forget it, because you're only as good as what's next. So if you dwell on your failure, you're never going to get to what's next. And if you just rely on, well, yeah, I'm successful. Well, you were. I don't want to be a has-been. You know, yes, I was successful. I want to be able to say I am continuing to be successful. So that's how I look at it. It's how I, you know, with everything. I just do this with everything in life.
And you know, I also observed another thing that I just working with you on a lot of things and learning what I can. What I picked up from you is that you have fun doing what you do, which I think actually just significantly improves your productivity and output, just with the presentations you put on with the audience, whether it's RSA or anywhere else. You are in your best element, and I think it's with everyone, when you truly enjoy and having fun and finding where can you have fun with something, with whether it's a challenging project, where can I have fun with this? What's fun about this? What am I learning? Making the most out of it, not taking shortcuts, but make it interesting for yourself. And I deserve that from you. And I think you personify that better than I think anyone else. You are really working hard, but at the same time, you're having fun.
Have to. If it feels like work, then it's going to be. And you're not gonna, I don't think you're gonna get as much progress. Got to be able to see those results. I mean, there's always going to be something about a job that you don't like. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't necessarily enjoy the process of achieving my goals, because it's hard, but I enjoy much more the achieving of the goal, that satisfaction of it. Because again, I mean, because it's hard work. I mean, it's easy to say, I'm just going to give up. I don't want to do this. It's hard. You know, it's hard. You know, why should I want to put myself through that struggle? Well, if you don't, then you're not going to achieve the goal. And that satisfaction of achievement is much better than the hate I have for the struggle. I don't think anyone enjoys struggling. I think, like, even when you talk about like the prize fighters, UFC or boxing, I don't think any of them really enjoy the training aspect. But they know that if they make the training so difficult, there's no way their opponent has trained as hard, and that's what the satisfaction of that win is going to be for them. They put themselves through hell, so that way when they're in that fight, hell wasn't as bad as what they're going to inflict on their opponent. And I think that's the mentality that I have.
It does certainly make it feel a little bit, I guess, sweeter in terms of victory if you knew it was a hard, challenging opponent, formidable opponent there in terms of goals, for me at least. I want to maybe ask you one last question here. And I love Lair. I think this is fantastic. You have a really good set of members that have been, here talking, and I want to review each and every single one of them and get to know a lot of these people. I think it's a very powerful network, and I think it's going to continue to grow and expand. But what if it was something where it was like a panel of speakers sometimes, and sharing information, and maybe when this whole COVID thing is beyond us, maybe it's like different committees of, people who are looking to self-improve in their careers, whether it's in cyber or the CIO or wherever they may be, in this, like, the upper mid-level of their career, kind of emerging into like the C-suite type of area. I think there's nothing really out there where there's a group of people in this very specific industry, not focused on selling things, but more focused on their career, and maybe sharing information about what technologies they should be looking at, how they can better themselves. And who better, like, that's my favorite question, who better than you, Dr. Daniel Ford, to lead something like that? You mentioned the whole alumni network, and networks are so important. I couldn't agree more with you. And I'd like to see you expand on this.
Well, that's absolutely one of the goals of this. This idea came to fruition during my last assignment at Michigan Ross, which we did a lot of in-depth discussion and learning on social capital. And we took a look at our networks. And I kind of looked at myself, like, I always felt in many ways, especially when I was in DC, I felt like I had a much more of a rainmaker-like network, but really I didn't. I did in a technology perspective. Like, I know people in the application development, to cybersecurity, to networking, to servers, to, sales, all of that, but it was only in the technology industry. So in some ways you could say, okay, yeah, I have a rainmaker network in that regard. But I want to have much more of that when it comes to the world. I want to be able to get it to where I'm assisting and helping everyone's goal achievement. And the way, to me, to help do that is through continuously investing in that social capital and putting together a network. And this could be a very good platform, and I'm hoping it will be an excellent platform in the future to be an open network. And I don't mean it like a LinkedIn. I'm looking at it as it's a way in which my friends and colleagues get to learn from each other. Think about, like, I may have, I don't know, 5,000 connections on LinkedIn or whatever it is, and say you have 5,000, and we know a lot of the same people. So maybe together, we don't have 10,000, but we might have 13,000, or no, sorry, 5. Let's say it's not 10,000. Together we may have 7,500, right? Yeah. So as we continue expanding that out, it's a network of people being able to help people in some capacity. And I don't mean it like a LinkedIn. I am looking to, put on things that really help people You know, that's all I want. I want to be able to,
Yeah,
and for me, and the selfish parts, I want to learn.
yeah.
And so who better to learn from than the people that I've been in contact with?
Exactly. And, there's the network aspect, but there's also sort of that training aspect. And you and I know, 20 years ago, it was like a big deal about corporate training. And you would work for a company, you would stay there for a long time, they would train you and develop you. That's all gone, since the last, what, 08, 09 recession, that went out the door and never came back. And a lot of the training is now on you, as well as the networking. Now that we work in a more distributed environment, and networking is going to become a little bit more challenging, and the training aspects as well is going to be put on the employee to go out and get it done. It's not going to be handed to them like it was before, and no better to be in a position to make that happen than someone like you. So yeah, I wish you continued success on the layer, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Mike, and I'm sure you'll be on again. I always appreciate our conversations, and I'm really glad you're able to be a guest again on the lair. So I'm always forgetting to say this, and this is just more a part of learning, and I always forget to say it in the beginning. Please subscribe. If you have topics that you would like me to talk about, I have a plethora of colleagues and friends to be able to bring them on. So hopefully in the future we'll have some other topics. And Mike, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Take care, everyone.
My pleasure. Bye.